The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership Podcast. It's another edition of The Big Issue. And of course, as usual, I'm your regular host. George Agba is my name. And of course, with me here in the studio, our in-house analyst, we have Silas Ezewu.
You're welcome today.
And of course, Henry Choemba is here.
Thank you.
And of course, for the big issue of the day, it's about the ongoing strike by university lecturers, the federal government's dilemma as the umbrella body of academic staff of the university ASUU has remained adamant over its position. Now the federal government seems to be in a quandary in the ongoing impasse between it and the academic staff union of university. And to show how confused the federal government is, it withdrew the order asking chancellors, pro-chancellors to reopen the universities, despite the industrial action embarked on by the academic staff union of the universities. This followed, according to reports, the heat generated by an earlier order it issued yesterday asking that lecturers in the universities should be resumed. Later in the day, on Monday, the federal government proceeded to issue another circular through the National Universities Commission asking that its earlier directive that the university should reopen should be put on hold. And of course, that has gone a long way to show that the crisis, the impasse between the federal government and ASUU is far from resolving. And that entails that students of the university will have to stay at home for a very long time. Maybe what would have been the idea of withdrawing an order after asking chancellor, because most Nigerians felt that it was due to some meetings with pro-chancellors and the federal government that would have warranted this. I remember the pro-chancellors met with the president, was it last week or so? But we are now saying this.
Okay, thank you for that. First of all, I think the issuance and withdrawal of that order mandating vice chancellors and pro-chancellors to reopen universities is a clear indication that the federal government has lost the total control of the situation and is in a confused state. Because remember, before they issue order, the leadership of the academic staff universities and leadership of the House of Representatives met last week under the leadership of the Speaker, Fumi Bajabiamira, to resolve the issue once and for all. And the Speaker made mention that the House has been able to reach agreement with ASUU on about 6 of its demands. And the Speaker also said that it will present the 7th demand before the President Muhammadu Buhari once he come back from the UN General Assembly that just finished. And I was surprised when I heard that the Federal Minister of Education through the National Universities Commission issued that memo to that's equal to universities mandating vice chancellors and pro-chancellors to reopen the universities. The federal government should have waited to get the feedback from the federal government, because I just discovered that President Muhammadu Buhari just came back to the country, so they should have waited to get the feedback from the federal government on what the Speaker presented before President Muhammadu Buhari before taking such kind of a decision. But to my surprise, they went ahead to carry out such action, which has showed that the federal government itself is being indecisive. They are not taking a stance on what Nigeria should expect to get from a whole Minister of Education that is in charge of this crisis.
Thank you very much, Henry. Silas, you heard Henry very well. You see, despite ongoing efforts, and the matter is even before the court. The order issued by the National Industrial Court says ASUU should return to the classroom. ASUU went on appeal, asking that the order of the National Industrial Court should be reversed. At the same time, the federal lawmakers stepped into the matter and they offered to address the issue. But yet, it appears the federal government is becoming impatient. And what would you say? Because you will not blame the federal government. The implication is that it is not about the students that are at home that I think should be worrying the federal government more. It is the way it is affecting its image in an election year as we approach the 2023 election. And the federal government does not seem comfortable with that. What if it is not comfortable, like most analysts have said, what is it supposed to do?
Well,
To meet the demands of ASUU, even if it is not complete, at least half. Don't you think this would have been a better option? Okay, come, we cannot give you all because let's see what we can be able to offer you. Wouldn't that have helped the matter to an extent? At least, okay, we say let's come back and be watching to see whether they will be able to bring the remaining part since they have been able, but nothing at all to show that they are even ready to yield to ASUU's demand.
yes, Judge, I think some of your preamble has addressed the issue significantly. This, like Tomba said, government's move yesterday and reversal through the NUC showed a lack of tact. Even the one of going to court itself, but they were like trying to carry out the order of the court, directing that schools should reopen, and they wanted to give effect, even though the ASUU has gone on appeal to give effect to it to get something going, And I'm sure that the government was ranting embarrassed yesterday when you shared one statement today in the few hours you first said. Yes, there was communication gap somewhere. People have communicated correctly to know how to. But this, why it's even more worrisome is that this issue is not a today issue. It's something that lingered over the time. So any government response action should be premeditated, something that we've thought over and come forward. It's not just something you do at touch and then have to pass yourself after
Immediately.
It makes a mockery of the whole thing. I said earlier that when you want to bargain, you have to bargain in good faith. And I remember us always saying that government has never bargained in good faith. They will enter agreement they have no plan to implement. You are discussing, having sets of meetings, and then you go to court. To take someone to court in my culture is a declaration of war, more or less, even though court is supposed to find peace. But when you take someone to court or to police station, in my place,
the die is cast.
Yeah, so we have departed company is through to the court, and then even before you see went ahead to give that directive, I had the chairman of ASUU, chairman Sedeke, warning that court should not mandate them to go back to school because it will not work. He said it, I think in that communication, that interaction with lawmakers and co, it was on TV. So no, this idea of going to court, that's not going to work. It should not go that way. It will not have issues. And from the statement yesterday, he said, well, can close this. The schools can be reopened. They didn't close the schools. They already withdrew their services. But they themselves are not going to teach what? They said, teach what? And then, if like you mentioned in the preamble, that they have made some of the demands, and then one or two is remaining, and people believe it's the work, no pay. So the question to ask is who caused this length of time that they didn't work? Were they unwilling to work because of what? Is it because it's not because government failed to what? To carry out an agreement they reached. So government was the one that breached the process first. They were just reacting to it. And then after they had kept them out of work, because people work, they also earn something to keep their families afloat. After going through in this hard time, even those who are working and earning pay are not able, are barely surviving. They kept them, then we now want to just go back and teach happily. See, teaching is a vocation. You have to be in a good element to even teach. I mean, they should go to the class with the hunger, all the accumulated bills, and all the customer bills piling up, and all the treasures for them having computer society. They can just go to and start teaching your children. So I don't know what government is playing at, but if you want to go to school, go back. You have to. I believe there should be a middle ground somewhere. That government has to show good faith, like presenting something that can take them back. That may not. I don't know for now, but they must see that they must be paid 100% of the 6 or 7 months. But if they are promised that look, this money will be paid to you, but we cannot pay it in one go, in one first swoop, to say, can we give you 3? Start at this so time, we give you the other one, or okay, since this, just put something that is reasonable on the table, and see how they react. Look, I keep saying that these lecturers have their children also in those universities. The private universities are so costly that some of them cannot afford it. From the salary they earn, they cannot afford. Most of them cannot afford their children private universities. So most of the children are there, and also know that they say sometimes like children are also affected by this strike. That's right. So I would expect that he will be in the forefront of trying to get going to resolve this thing. But I knew, well, I won't say I knew, but it is expected that government will have budgeted for lecturers for this 2022. So where is the money? If government budget for this money, they ask, okay, let's pay some money, and you say you're not paying them. What's going to happen to those 6 months? They're going to give it for something, or what are they going to do with it?
Sorry.
And it's causing the crisis to linger.
Well,
So you have to show the good faith that you are decisive in ending this thing. Otherwise, the main thing will just get messy and messier.
well, let's just quickly take a short break, and as we do that, we hope that our viewers will contribute constructively to the conversation on the big issue. Don't go offline. We'll be back in a moment.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Welcome back. We're still on the big issue in leadership podcast. And of course, the big issue of the day is the ongoing strike by the academic staff union of universities, and federal government dilemma, as the lecturers have remained adamant. Silas, still back to you. Don't forget that the federal government say it derived its power, and its power to ask the universities to reopen is derived from the order of the National Industrial Court, ordering ASUU to call off a strike. And that would have amounted to the fact that ASUU's adamant amounts to nothing but contempt of court. And of course, don't you think the best thing the federal government would have done to say, okay, so you have refused not to call off this strike despite this court order? You go back, issue from 48, which is the consequence. You're coming when the court will ask you to come and explain why you should not be committed to prison for disobeying its order. Do you think that the idea of asking the pro-chancellors and vice-chancellors to proceed to open the school based on the court order, than going back to the same court and say, come, see what you say, though. These people have still not obeyed your order. You get my point. I think that was just what played out here. So most people, most Nigerians are saying that the federal government seems to be taking the law in its hands. It's as a result of that desperation, because they know the damage. The continual stay at home of students is causing it. Which one would have been better? Is it going to court to say, come, these people have refused to obey your order, and to sit down on his own and order the reopening of school? That is the dilemma we're talking about.
Not really that past legal issues, but I did hear somehow that the court should not make a pronouncement to give an order that cannot enforce. For instance, if you are going to arrest lecturers in Nigeria for not go back to work, what if ASUU just merely pronounce, okay, because of so and so, okay, because of so, we have plan to pay this order, we are forced to. When you do that, forced to, is it going to translate to lecturers? Lecturers will read behind, they can do an open declaration that they are part of strike, and issue that and subterranean directive that took over. We're just doing it to pretend to obey the court order. And the lecturers will be at home, they will not go. I don't know to now prescribe ASUU. I go to sack the lecturers and pay new ones. Lecturers are not dime a dozen. The intellectual people who put a lot of time to study, to research, to put the knowledge, which that knowledge, if work and else, can help Nigeria to develop. So I think the government, should have gone back to court to say, look, ASUU has not done this. At the same time, open channels of more dialogue. But ASUU always says they want to talk. They want to find a way out of it. But that part of the victims of this. That is to go 1 month, 2 months without pay. You have family to feed, have dependent. In fact, one person that was in Nigeria, they are carrying a family, your family, extended family, and for such people who have such standard in society, you imagine all the dependents that depend on them, dependents that are hanging on their income. So I think that they too will be much, but for them to stick to their guns this long, it means that they're ready to go the whole hog.
Well,
so they've not always seen government being honest, upright, straightforward in the negotiations. And then the government can say we don't have money now, but they see government spending money in things that are irrelevant. You understand? So that's government have to demonstrate that look, we don't have the money and they have to do the job. For instance, how can government government that they don't have money when by some count 50%, 8% of Nigerian oil is being stolen by some people? And you have the army, you have the navy, you have all the security apparatuses working there, and the money that would have gone to settle this out to something and other issues, some people are carrying it away.
And
then these are people who, not just people like you and me, or that, it's people who are highly wired. So when they see this, they say the government knows where this money should come. They don't want to harvest it.
Politicians have more just keeping for the campaigns to start, so that they start spending. You see?
So when they look at all those things, see the kind of money that
Honestly,
even councillors have access to. Councillors, some of them are just school dropouts. And you talk about what lecturers, PhD holders, professors, and so. It's lecturers are not even taking what common councillors take. So when you look at all this things, they get angry. When you talk to them, they say, what is wrong with these people? So, and then, so governments need to demonstrate goodwill in this matter. I know that things are tough. The government is not helping issue by not trying to maximize the country's resources. How can you tell Nigerians that Nigeria's the egg, the golden egg in Nigeria, the goods that people can be taking more than half of it and entering support for years. You're telling us we don't know who they are. You know, I like what Peter said when he was campaigning. You know, he said they don't know that people are being kidnapped, bandits are collecting millions and billions and so, and they're using phone call. In second, they don't know who they are. So it's just for oil theft, which, because if they all that money, now we're having problem getting production of open quota. So that's production goes to 1.1,800,000 because of oil theft. And I think Nigeria has reached 2.something million, 2.4 million, 2.2 million in the past. Imagine getting an extra 2 million barrels, 1 million barrels of it every day. What is ASUU need that they cannot sort out? So government is not demonstrating leadership. They don't demonstrate governance. And that's why they are not able to meet these obligations which they signed up to. And they cannot just sit there and tell them, you wave your hands, you cannot do anything. When you have the control apparatus of state, the classic forces of government to stop in the Nigerians' wealth by stealing. But I'm sure also another people believe that government is in charge of this oil debt that's going on. That's why they're keeping quiet.
They're keeping quiet, and they are.
They're not telling us that we cannot meet our own demand.
Well, I think based on the first directive from the federal government, what they say, Henry, is that the chancellors should open a register in this university. A register where the lecturers will have to come and sign their attendance, and that any lecturer who refuses to resume within a period of 2 weeks should have his position declared vacant. The federal government has that kind of right to take such action.
You know, the truth of the matter is that the federal government, before they issued that statement, it was not coming direct from them. They were only reacting in accordance with the order directed by the National Industrial Code after that few weeks ago. So they were only acting in accordance with that order. So the federal government has not come up with a position to or authority to ask vice chancellors or pro-chancellors to open the universities, because ASUU has always argued that that the universities were not closed. The universities were open, but the university lecturers only went on strike. So you cannot say that the university lecturer should, the vice chancellor should open the universities. The university was still ongoing. So the issue should be that the federal government is like skipping the main issue of contention in which the lecturer has been on strike. And I think the best way for this crisis is for federal government, just like you talk about the issue of dialogue. When this order came out, some of the parents' association also raised their concern, appealing with the federal government to come to the table with one agreement with ASUU and settle this crisis instead of asking ASUU or trying to taking them to court to punish them. And I think that is the best way to end this strike is for the two parties to come together and have one voice so that the whole issue will put to a bed. Remember, not only students are passing or having some kind of issue in this strike. Lecturers alike are also
passing the same.
I just read a story 2 days ago where it has been reported that about 21 lecturers in the University of Calabar have died since ASUU embarked on this strike because of one or two other challenges.
They have died, and of course, the situation is that it's not even about them dying. it is about a situation where now you are telling people that what would have served as an incentive, would have served as incentive to work, you are not making it available. They must go by fire, by force. And I think the federal government, what it is doing is what in our own local parlance and our own local pidgin, they call afternoon upon eye. And of course, knowing that that wouldn't work because they got advice from some stakeholders that no, you are just being too hasty over this matter. Why not take the matter down? But is there still a possibility that there will be window for any more negotiation? Because from what I heard is that they said the reason why the federal government had to withdraw its directive was because they were advised that no, please allow this in because, as you say, they are still the window is still open for more negotiation. What negotiation again could be more than the one they have done? Especially the present ASUU seem to be so adamant. Naturally, just like Silas said, it had always been that they will keep prolonging this issue. Government upon government will come into power and they keep referring this issue. Just like they say, he who fights and run will always live to fight another day. But the present ASUU seems to be very, very adamant about this. And how will you trace it? Is it the leadership of ASUU? Or we had the chairman, or is it the ASUU president? How do they call him? Seems to be more stubborn compared to other chairmen that would have come that may just yield to certain negotiations that at the end of the day will not turn out to become a promising note. So now with this kind of adamant, it goes like this. That means it is quite possible that there is no hope for a resolution of this conflict, even this year.
Wait, just like I said before, let's not give up hope. We still have hope because in the beginning of this discussion, I said that even as we confirm that they are waiting to hear from President Muhammadu Buhari. He just came back from the UN General Assembly because the House already said they are going to meet him and present the ASUU demand before he get back to Nigerians. So we are waiting to hear the outcome of that meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari.
So now, Silas, what do we now talk on the part of federal government? President Buhari has just returned from the United Nations General Assembly. And I think he is even directly at the receiving end because his party, the governing APC, will go to the poll and test his might in an election that will not determine whether it will be able to beat PDP's record of staying in power for 16 years. And yet this is happening.
Well,
what do you see beyond now?
Well, the president is winding down his government. The next few months he will be gone. And then I'm sure he would like to leave a legacy of having settled this ASUU matter, and to help his party too, if he can sort it out. So, just like Jonathan said at the time that he had a meeting with the ASUU at the time and ended the strike then, ASUU has been longing to talk to the president. It's possible that if they say one-on-one, the president can give certain concessions which presidents and ministers will not be able to give. So they want to get that assurance, that commitment for the president to work. And the president should know that he's the means of everything. He's the means of education. He's the means of right. Those people he put there are just his acolytes. So if there's an issue that they're not able to resolve for a long time, it's his job to intervene, get it out of the way. So you cannot continue being aloof. But fortunately, like someone said off stage, how would you president with so much interest? Oh, his children have gone to school in the UK. So it doesn't have any particular. I don't believe that he's the president of Nigeria. Our issue should be his issue. But the pinches us should also concern him. So now he's back. He's not actively running for election himself. He has time to call us to the table and say, what is it? How can we solve this thing once and for all? And that from them. Then as the father and the president of everybody of the nation, father of the nation, he will say, okay, this is what we can do. I promise you, yes, I promise you so and so. On my word, go back to work. From tomorrow you see so and so happening. But please let this thing be sorted out. It's become a shame to the nation, become, it's not on the face of this government. And I want it to stop.
But are you sure that the federal government has not really come to that level to really persuade ASUU go to work? I think the problem lies that this particular ASUU will not want to shift ground because maybe it's taking precedence from past negotiations with past administration that would not always turn out to become a hoax. So has the federal government not persuaded ASUU the way Silas would have expected the president to say that?
I think that the federal government is making its own effort. But remember, before I embark on this strike, the current president, Professor Emmanuel Osodike, he said that the union is willing to sacrifice 2 years to make sure that this issue is resolved once and for all. We're not even up to 1 year, so let's wait and see what we have on next.
Well, that is the much we can take for today's edition of the big issue. The federal government will still do more to get ASUU to understand the situation on the ground. And in the coming days, we'll wait to see how the impasse between the federal government and the academic staff union of universities will be resolved. For now, it is still hazy. And of course, the appeal before the Court of Appeal seeking to quash the order of the National Industrial Courts, asking lecturers to return back to school, is still something we are waiting to hear. In the coming days, we'll see how this turns out. Thank you for keeping tab with us. And of course, we thank our in-house analysts for addressing the big issue the way it should be addressed. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of this program. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.